Hello and welcome back to the SJP Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 50 and I am over the moon to think that, people want to listen to me and various other guests ramble on about this crazy world of pretend fighting of this many times. 50 episodes and people are still downloading, people are still pressing play. It's amazing to me. Thank you so much for everyone who's ever listened, ever promoted, ever retweeted, ever downloaded, ever had anything to do with the show, all the previous guests and so on. Absolutely, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, it means so much. 50 episodes, I'm buzzing. It's fantastic. You'll notice for the first time in 50 episodes, we have some new music playing us in today due to a little bit of an issue with somebody in Turkey laying claim to the song that I was, very reliably, I thought, informed was going to cost nothing, and the copyrights were open and anyone could use it. It was free music. Apparently there's a little band in Turkey who claim they wrote that song. So we changed it up. Episode 50, maybe the start of a new era, new format, new guests. Why not some new music? So playing us in today and playing us out again at the end of the show and in future weeks is, well, you would have heard, the band Awake by Design. They are someone who, well, a band that I know quite well because my younger brother, Adrian Powell, is the main songwriter, singer, performer, etc. for this band. The song there was The Coming Tide, their most recent single, available on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere else. If you want to follow the band, you can on Twitter at Awake by Design UK and all other social media platforms as well. Go check them a follow, have a listen to their stuff on YouTube. The Coming Tide single and the official video for it I will tag on the at SJP Wrestling Pod Twitter account and Facebook account and so on, so you can have a little look. And just a big thank you to Awake by Design for allowing me to use that music and hopefully open a few people's eyes and ears to some of the great stuff that Awake by Design produce. Speaking, however, of someone who is a namesake and a family member of my own with regards to AD, my younger brother from Awake by Design, our guest today is making her podcast debut. And she's also someone who is a family member and has a very similar name, I suppose, a namesake of mine. And that is my amazing, talented, creative, beautiful, awesome wife. I know her as Sharon Powell, but online the majority of people will know her as Sharon Correia. All the way from the other room in my house. Sharon, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. All the better for talking to you, my love. Okay. Before we get to what we're going to be talking about today on this episode, do you want to just let everybody listening, there's going to be numerous people who listen who are familiar with you from the live chat on chain wrestling that we do via Radio Tekkers with Magsy on a Monday night that interact with you there. A few people interact with you on Twitter already. Do you want to just let everyone out there who is maybe hearing of you or from you for the first time know how you kind of came across this crazy world of professional wrestling?
Well, I grew up with it, as you've been told many, many times, but obviously there's people who don't know. I've watched it ever since I can remember, because my mum was a huge wrestling fan. So we always had it in our house growing up. We was very fortunate to have Sky TV back in like the late 80s when it first came out. So I've been watching it ever since I can remember, if I'm honest.
Okay, and also, you had a family member who worked for the WWF, didn't you? If your mum, if my mother-in-law Janet was to be believed, do you want to just tell that story to anyone who doesn't know it already?
Yeah, when I was obviously a lot younger, and used to have the sticker albums, my mum used to buy me stickers, but what I didn't realise initially is that she'd open them first, go through them and take out any of the pictures of Bret Hart that she liked. So for the majority of my childhood, my mum carried a picture of Bret Hart in her purse. So as you do as a kid, it's like, who's that, mum? Like, why is Bret Hart in your purse, sort of thing? And she'd say, oh, that's your granddad. And it was a very throwaway comment, but it's something that stuck. I knew him, as I got older, he wasn't my granddad, but it's still a running joke to this day, sort of 30 years later, we still joke about him being my granddad.
Yeah, I love that story. It's brilliant. It's nice as well of your granddad to have signed that picture for me that we've got in the back room next to the other signed pictures as well. So yeah, that's great. So I suppose that would make you quarter Canadian, would it?
Well, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
And our kids must be 1/8 Canadian or something like that. I suppose that's news. That's new information to me. I didn't think of it that way before. Basically, what I'll do now, I'll explain to everyone listening the kind of new idea that we have going forward with the SJP Wrestling Podcast. Before anyone sort of panics and thinks things are changing too much, because I know there are people out there who are big supporters of the show. Handy, T1TF on Twitter, for example, Steve-O as well, enjoy what we've done in the past. Those formats are not going away. We will still continue to speak to local independent wrestlers about their careers. We will continue to speak to these same people about old pay-per-views and review old shows together, the likes of David Eaton and so on, Sharon Correia and all the other great guests from Evolution Wrestling and beyond will continue to come on the show to look at pay-per-views with me and so on as well. So that's not going away. This is an additional format that I thought could be a bit of fun with anyone who's interested. So by all means, send me a message on Twitter at SJP Words or message the show at SJP Wrestling Pod if you fancy coming on the show as a guest. But what we're going to be doing here for the first time with Sharon is something that I've not, to be honest, I suppose quite unprofessionally, I haven't actually named it yet. Ideas in my head were awesome foursome, Fab Four, whatever. I don't know. We'll come to some sort of conclusion eventually, I guess. But we're going to be looking at 4 different matches, very briefly, very quickly, scanning over each match. The guest, in this instance, Sharon, will be picking 3 matches that mean a great deal to her, whether that's something that's mesmerised her recently, or a match from her childhood that meant a lot, or a match that emotionally she's very attached to, for whatever reason, just wrestling that she loves. 3 matches, any era, any wrestlers, any stipulation, any company, etc. I will then add a 4th into the conversation as well. And depending on the 3 matches that my guest picks will depend upon how I go about selecting the 4th one. That's basically the scenario for today's show. Sharon, how did you find rewatching some of these matches that you loved and a match that, as far as I'm aware, I suggested to you that you've not seen before? What were your thoughts?
I have loved it. Obviously, the 3 matches that I picked, I watched in one hit the other day, and I loved it. The buzz of watching those matches again, matches that I did love or a match I thought I loved, but we'll get into that. It was great watching it. It's amazing. It's nice having to pick what I loved rather than being told what to watch, barring the one match you told me to watch.
Right. Being told, I don't tell you that often what to watch, do I, surely? Well, wrestling wise.
No, but you know what I mean? Rather than watching, like for me personally, watching a pay-per-view doesn't interest me, because you know what I'm like for going back and watching wrestling. It's not something I do. So yeah, this was a good way round it, I suppose. Yeah,
and it's kind of what created the idea of doing this awesome foursome, I suppose, format, is because there are people who don't want to go back and watch a whole pay-per-view. So watching just a couple of matches that mean a lot to them and then ranking them in the order of preference, it's something that you and me kind of settled upon doing for you coming on the show. But I love the idea so much. It is something that I'm going to carry on doing with other people as well. So yeah, so every time you hear this, it's something that you very much helped create, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, so we will dive straight in, I suppose. And we have our 4 matches here. We'll start with one from yourself, and then I guess have a look at the one I selected, and then finish with the final 2 from you, Sharon, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the first choice? And I suppose more importantly, why was it selected in your 3?
Well, the first match I'm going to pick is The Rock versus Triple H at SummerSlam 98. It's the Intercontinental title ladder match. The reason I picked this match, because this was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be to sort of narrow it down to 3 matches. The reason I picked this one is because this is the match that got me back into watching wrestling when I went through that awkward teenage stage of not wanting to do anything what your parents do, and I sort of stepped away from wrestling. This was the match. I was already watching, weekly shows, but this was the match that solidified for it for me. This was like, wow, I really have to watch this again. Seeing The Rock, who at the time was a heel, I loved him. So that was that for me.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's quite a funny time for me looking back when I rewatch this, because obviously The Rock is a heel here, which you kind of get used to, because he does flick between the two, I suppose. But to me, it's Triple H and how Triple H looks. He's got the kind of more, I don't know how to word it, more fluffy blonde hair, I guess, for want of a better term. And he's got those crazy long purple tights on, which he doesn't look like Triple H at all here, does he?
No, not the one we know and love now.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I mean, I've seen this pay-per-view numerous times for various different research reasons, and also just going back and checking out random wrestling here and there. But I completely forgot about the DX band playing Triple H to the ring. I totally forgot that happened.
Yeah, I mean, same. I even made note of it because I forgot.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe look back on this with rose-tinted glasses a little, because I remember the DX band being a lot better, because that was, to me, I thought that was quite ropey.
Yeah. It was a bit indie feeling. It had a bit of an indie vibe to it. Yeah,
it weren't great. It was funny seeing him, Triple H, pick up the lead singer on his shoulders and run around with him, though. That tickled me.
But, I mean, you say that, yes, that was funny, but I didn't enjoy the camera flashes, like the flicking to picture to picture to picture, and it's like that just made my head hurt.
Yeah. I mean, it's similar. I mean, I remember we sat down and watched, I think it was an episode of Raw. It might have been SmackDown, so I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I think it was Raw, about maybe 2-3 months ago, which is probably the last time we actually put Raw on, isn't it, in our house, let's be honest. And the camera jumps then drove me mad.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
And it's like,
there was things that was missed as well, wasn't there, because of the cameras jumping. I remember talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like somebody throwing, say, 5 or 6 punches in the corner. Every punch, they jump to a different angle. But of course, these are really quick cuts, and it's enough to make people feel seasick.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a good look. What I thought was a good look, and something I'm always really fond of with this match here, is SummerSlam 98 was in Madison Square Garden. So you get that kind of unique entranceway that's facing the hard camera.
Yeah.
That it's very narrow, and you're almost looking through the ring and then down the entranceway, I guess, into the back. Very unusual for a WWE pay-per-view, the way they lay things out. What do you think about that? Because the fans were very much on top of the wrestlers as they were coming out, weren't they?
It felt very of the time to be sort of so surrounded by people walking to the ring. It's something that obviously we grew up watching, but you forget that it used to be that tight walking to the ring. Yeah,
totally. They went back there for a Royal Rumble when, if you remember, John Cena made his return after injury, came out really late on, and he stands there waiting for the cameras to sort of catch him, and the fans are all leaning over and just pulling at him all over the place. It's like maybe extend it a bit or get better security, because it was like you said, Shah, really, really cramped. One other thing early on that sort of stood out to me was The Rock and Triple H. Obviously, you can't hear them, but if you can lip read, there's a lot of F you, mother effort. Right at the beginning. Did you see that?
Yes, I did notice that, yeah.
I don't know why, but that just really tickles me. I don't know why it makes me laugh when you see them really, enthusiastically ranting and swearing at each other. Okay, I suppose that we get past the intros and the FUs back and forth. What did you think of the match? Watching it back for the first time in I don't know how long. It must have been quite a while.
Pretty much since it aired.
Oh, okay.
It was great watching something that I believed to be so magical. But the downside of rewatching it is like, okay, that wasn't quite as magical as I remembered.
Right, I know what you mean. Yeah, carry on.
So it was sort of like it took the shine off it, if I'm honest, and it's that thing of you almost wish you'd left it alone.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from. Do you remember when I sat down with our lad Liam to watch the A-Team a few years ago, trying to tell Liam that this is one of the greatest TV shows ever made, and I watched it back and I was mortified. It's that kind of thing.
Like that.
Yeah, taking the shine off is a really good way of wording that. That's spot on the money. There were some great moments, obviously, some great bumps, some great moves and so on. But one thing I picked up was that it all felt kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm spoilt by modern day ladder matches, but it kind of felt quite slow and sluggish in places.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a product of its time in respect of they were both big guys. You know, you felt like they were blowing up quite early.
Right, okay. Yeah, I understand. The ladder sort of comes into play not as early as I would imagine either. I mean, I'd have thought, looking at our ladder matches, how quickly the ladder comes into play now, that they do a bit of actual wrestling for a while before Triple H starts taking some quite stiff bumps, isn't there? There's the one on the outside when the ladder stood up that he's thrown into. He hits it really hard then, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
That's not a good one. But then he's got this leg injury as well that he's selling throughout the whole duration of the match. But you say about taking the magic off and so on. There was one moment where The Rock was hitting Triple H's leg into the ring post. And my note actually says here, it looks like shit because it's not convincing at all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, there's a moment where The Rock kind of has the match won, isn't there? Where Triple H on the outside of the ring and he climbs the ladder really quick and effectively stops and waits for Triple H. What were your thoughts on that? And I suppose ladder matches in general, the sort of slow climbing and so on. How do you kind of find that in modern day wrestling and back then?
It's one of my biggest bugbears, and it's something that I've made notes on. That I put like The Rock, slowest climb ever. The Rock, another very slow climb.
Yeah,
it's a bugbear of mine because it's like they pump up the energy to get the ladder up, and they effectively run to the ladder, and then it's like, oh, these steps. Oh, it's just too much.
You wouldn't want them hanging wallpaper for you, would you?
No, and it's just unconvincing. And then I think the big problem with it, personally, is that when they actually do go for the title or whatever's hanging, all of a sudden it's sped up, and it's like, oh, okay, so you can move now then.
Yeah, I tell you, I never really thought of that before. I always think of the slow climb and how ridiculous it can look sometimes, well, a lot of the time. But that's a really good point. I never thought once about the accelerated climb, in theory, when they're even more tired because the slow climbs haven't been successful, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I never thought of that. That's quite funny. Huh. We get another really sort of, I mean, I've got a note here saying it literally just ow from Triple H going for the pedigree, but The Rock counters it and back drops him onto the ladder. And there's no way you can sort of fake that bump. There's no way you can sort of cushion that. That's got to hurt,
Well, yeah, you can't protect yourself from that. And it's one of those moves that you could know everything in the business. You're still going to go, ow.
Yeah. And the noise as well. The noise the ladder makes when it's hit. That awful cracking sound. Oh, my goodness. Something I noticed as well during this match, as we're sort of coming towards the finish, I guess. Like I said, when we do these sort of awesome foursomes or whatever, we're going to very much quickly scan through each match unless there's anything particular that the guest or I want to properly dive into. One thing I did notice is how much the crowd absolutely adored Chyna and how massively they popped when she hit Mark Henry.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just, they were fanatical for her. But again, seeing her in that bright green rather than the black that she sort of went on to wear or maybe wore before, I don't quite remember that either.
Yeah, I noticed that too, because I only ever remember her wearing black, like you said yourself. So, don't get me wrong, it was nice to see her in something different, especially when I'd forgot it. But it was weird. Yeah,
I mean, I remember, I think her name was Tori. She was with DX for a little bit in later years, and she wore green for a bit, but Chyna wearing the bright green. Again, we may get people on Twitter messaging going, well, she wore green for 12 months or what. I just don't remember it.
No, I don't remember it, so you're not the only one.
Yeah. Obviously a moment here that will please many people, I suppose, of a certain persuasion. We get a shot of The Rock's arse when Triple H and The Rock do the old Ric Flair spot of pulling the trunks down, I guess.
I made a note of that too.
Did you really? Not just a note, a screenshot and everything, yeah?
Yeah, probably. There's one somewhere. I can't confirm or deny that.
Mark Henry brings powder into the ring and throws powder into Triple H's eyes to try and assist The Rock. He does it in a very secretive, hidden kind of way, which baffled me because a ladder match effectively is no DQ. People can just do whatever they like, can't they? So I don't know why he's hiding it so much, but there we go. And again, talking about forgetting things, Shah, I completely forgot the finish of this match. I knew about the match. I knew like people look at it as being really good for its era and so on. I forgot completely about the finish, that Triple H has got this powder in his eyes and he's climbed the ladder and he's struggling to find the belt because he can't see. And China sort of helps him out and gets rid of The Rock, and then he grabs the belt. I thought that was really inventive, but for some reason, again, the same as China's green outfit, it completely disappeared from my mind.
Yeah, same. I remember talking to you about it and saying, and this is how we know it's the match it is, because I said to you, oh, it's the ladder match, and The Rock was all busted up at the end and he had a nosebleed.
Oh, yes.
So I remembered The Rock bleeding, but yeah, I didn't remember Triple H with the powder either, to be fair.
No, it's so funny how your mind, I suppose, plays tricks on you, isn't it? And we'll get to your sort of summary of this match in just a sec. But to me personally, I remember this being far better.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly the same. I remember it being better, and yes, it was nice to watch again, but some things should be left alone.
The 18 factor, I think we'll call that. That's what I'll start referring to that. The 18 factor. Yeah, okay. So that was match one of the foursome we're looking at today. Shall we have a little look at my selection, Sharon, for you to watch?
Yes.
Okie dokie. I chose this match purely because the three matches...
He likes to torture his wife.
I don't... Yeah, I can torture your wife. This is a classic. Purely because the matches that I wanted to go old school, because that's very much where my mindset and my favorite era of wrestling is. But also I wanted just a straightforward one-on-one singles match, because the three matches that you have are none of them are straightforward singles matches. So I thought this adds a sort of different aspect to the four. The match I chose was Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage for the Intercontinental title from WrestleMania 3. So what were your thoughts then? Because I mean, obviously you've watched this. We've had no conversation about this since you pressed play. I'm really intrigued as to what you thought of this, because it is one of my favourite matches of all time.
I think it very much is a match of the time.
Yeah.
It's a real difficult thing, because the way I look at things now, and maybe I'm wrong for doing this, that's fine, but I watch certain things now and I think, what would Charlie think of that? Okay,
yeah. I mean, for those listening who may not be aware, majority of people will be. Charlie is Sharon and I's youngest daughter, who watches the majority of wrestling with Sharon and I. So you hear me speak about Charlie's opinions on things quite a bit on chain wrestling, because it's interesting seeing it through new, innocent young eyes, I guess. Yeah, sorry, Sharon. You think what would Charlie think of that?
Yeah, and I think she'd probably be with me in the respect of, yeah, it's great and all, but okay.
Okay.
I'm not gonna put it down. I would never give it a bad rating, but it's just very of the time.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, it's 1987. So it's filmed in a certain way. The production is of its time, as you said, Shah, spot on there. To me, the in-ring action is what really sort of, I suppose, piques my interest, because there's two things to me that happen in this match that really, really stand out. And one is the speed in which Steamboat and Savage are doing certain things. There's a few sections where Steamboat is hitting his arm drags, his hip tosses, which I think are the best in the business. Ricky Steamboat doing an arm drag looks amazing.
That was impressive.
Yeah, so good. And people even now to this day still say that's as good as Ricky Steamboat, in reference to how good his arm drags were back then.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that really gets me is they're both trying to win the match. They both keep going for covers over and over and over again. And I think sometimes that's something that gets lost in modern wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, people want to be doing a stunt show or putting this spot, then we go to this spot, and then we go to this move. It's supposed to be a sporting contest. I love the way these guys were trying to win a sporting contest. Does that make sense? I don't know if I explained that very well.
Yeah, it's just, they're going for the win. That it's exactly like they've gone into the match to go for the win. They're not there to put on a show. And to me, I think it's a great show they put on. I'm an old friend of the show, Shagger Dave Meltzer, as Mr. Magsy refers to him as. He gave this a really, really high rating on his Observer newsletter. And there's a couple of moments that to me again stand out. Bearing in mind it's 1987. Savage hits a axe handle off the top rope to the outside. I thought that looked spectacular considering the time. Yeah, definitely. It did look impressive, but Savage is fantastic at making things like that look good.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I think that's a really good point, because when you actually look at the move itself, a double axe handle is literally just knocking the guy on the noggin with both his hands.
Yeah.
And dropping into a standing position. So I suppose in theory it's not that spectacular, but you're right, it looks incredible, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But like I said, I think that was Savage all over.
No, I think that's a really good shape. The one thing I think that lets this match down a touch is the finish. As much as I love this match, and I've seen it God knows how many times, the finish I think lets it down for two reasons. One, I don't think we need George Animal Steele getting involved. I don't think that was necessary, and it kind of took the sheen away a little bit. And secondly, I'm all for a roll-up or a small package finish when it's done well. But Steamboat doesn't quite hook both legs, so it looks kind of messy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I completely agree. It effectively made a bit of a mockery of everything that had just happened.
Yeah, it looked like he could have got his shoulder up, I suppose, as opposed to other moves earlier that he did kick out of, I guess. Okay, I'll put you on the spot now. Yes or no? Would you be interested in seeing more from, for argument's sake, Ricky Steamboat from the late 80s on the basis of this match, or as the fact that it is that dated? Because it is, wrestling's formed by everyone's opinions. I know people that won't watch anything from the 90s because to them it seems old, and that includes the Attitude Era. So would you? Has this sold you on an era that I love, or has it made you just think, okay, that was all right, but not my cup of tea? Or what are your thoughts?
In short, no.
Okay.
Not. It's not inspired me to go back and watch anything. I lived through it. We've had these conversations before, where it's like I said, we almost had the wrong lives because I lived through all of that, whereas you had to watch it in different means to me. So yeah. I'm not interested in going back, and what I'm like with a lot of things like that. I don't tend to rewatch matches. It really isn't my thing. So the thought of going back and watching something from the 80s, absolutely not. No, definitely not for me.
I know one person on Twitter, a good friend of the show, Total Stevo, who would 100% agree with you on that, Sharon. He's actually sent me a DM before on Twitter saying, I don't want to go back and watch the old stuff, when I suggested a couple of matches to him. It's funny, like, to me, I would rather watch that than some stuff that's on now. It's just funny. And I think this is why wrestling is so fantastic, because I'm a wrestling fan, you're a wrestling fan, Steve-O's a wrestling fan. All these different people who listen to the show are wrestling fans, but they're all fans in a different way. And I think that's just what makes this sport, this crazy world, so wonderful, Yeah,
definitely. And it's like we've said, it's a wonderful thing. It's an amazing thing. It's a shame for the people who let the industry down, but it's an incredible thing, and it could be an incredible experience for everyone who watches it, really.
Yeah, it's emotion for me. It's emotion.
Totally.
That, I always say that the in-ring product is the most important thing to me, but I suppose without the stories, you don't always get the emotion. So I suppose it does kind of go hand in hand, but yeah. And again,
yeah, I mean, me, I'm a crybaby. I cry at the drop of a hat. But how many times have we watched wrestling and I've been sat there crying?
Yeah.
Because of, there's a few things, let's not start going through the list because it'll just go on and on. But, we've sat there and I'm bawling my eyes out, and this is wrestling. This is supposed to be fake, and that's the point. a product can bring that out of you, and it's amazing.
Yeah. I'm trying to think when was the last time I cried at wrestling. Well,
When
CM Punk.
turned up.
Yeah, CM Punk's return, innit? I bored like a baby. Even Charlie looked at me like, "What's wrong with Dad?" Yeah, bloody hell. Shawn Michaels retiring Ric Flair, that made me cry. Oh man,
You did get emotional with Reigns as well when he had to step aside.
oh, when he had his leukemia. Oh, yeah, that was real sad. Yeah,
It was sad.
yeah,
But that's
things
real
like
life.
that.
So
Yeah, of course, and Daniel Bryan's retirement and return was emotional.
his retirement was definitely emotional because of the timing.
I suppose
Edge retiring, cried
Edge is
like a baby.
I was going to just say Edge. Yeah, Edge is retiring. I mean, I know for a fact because we've done it. Was it after? It was after the WrestleMania where everyone was not able to attend because of COVID. So it was like in the Performance Center, wasn't it? And after that WrestleMania, they ran that documentary on Edge's comeback year and the comeback in the Rumble.
Yeah.
And they showed clips of his retirement speech, and both me and you were sat there, our bottom lips going, and even on a bloody replay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I said to you, didn't I? So this is ridiculous because at the time, fine, but why are we still crying? Like, why am I still crying now? Because he's come back. It's fine.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, I'm trying to like hide the fact that I'm blubbing. I don't know what's wrong with you. It's my allergies. It's my allergies. Okay. I suppose we have 2 matches left to sort of scan through and have a look through. And these 2 matches, I think, are what's going to make it incredibly difficult when we come to listing the 4 in order, potentially. Well, for me anyway, I don't want to speak
for you. Yeah, me, not so much, but for you, definitely.
Yeah. We'll go whichever one you decide to go with first. But these are full of... Both of these matches are just full of great moments and great spots. Which one do you want to look at, Sha?
Let us do the NXT North American title ladder match at the NXT TakeOver New Orleans, April 7th, 2018.
Oh, didn't you sound all professional there?
I did, didn't I? That's fancy.
It's funny. I'm gonna be out of a job soon. You're gonna be hosting this on your Todd, and it works because your initials are exactly the same as mine. So we won't even have to change the logo that you made. It'll still say SJP. How great's that? It's so convenient.
It's so smooth.
If I ever fancied a week off, you could just step in, talk Adam Cole or something.
Oh, well, then I'll be live for like 75 million hours.
Yes, you are fond of Mr. Cole, but I suppose we'll get to that once we talk about this match here. First things first, 6 guys in this match. EC3, Killian Dane, Adam Cole, Velveteen Dream, Lars Sullivan, Ricochet. Only one of them still works at WWE now. Says a lot, I think, when you look at the talent in that list.
It says a lot, but obviously I never thought EC3 was a great fit for NXT anyway. I said that to you from the beginning.
Yeah, I can see that. He's got the look of a main roster guy, hasn't he, body-wise, I suppose.
Yeah, it always baffled me when he come in. I mean, it didn't, because I think it's the only place they would have put him in, but it baffled me when he come in at NXT, because it's like, hang on, this was the guy over at Impact was the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's come in at an NXT level, but it's that thing of, okay, that speaks volumes for WWE more so than EC3, because I think he could have gone onto the main roster very comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, playing devil's advocate here, I'm not in the habit of defending WWE, as you know. So, but just playing devil's advocate here, there is this mentality that guys who work for Impact, TNA, or some of the indies or whatever, they don't know how to work the WWE way with regards to where the cameras are, with regards to when they hit certain moves. Almost like wrestling on television is different to wrestling in an independent show, on an independent show. And to a degree, that I think that's 100% right, because you need to know where which camera is for this, which way to look for that, and so on. Maybe that was part and parcel of it, because EC3 had never been... I mean, he had a couple of matches on Velocity, I think, way back when, but the majority of his career was spent elsewhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think if that's going to be your excuse, that's a non-excuse, because you have people making their debut on the main roster. So you've got time to train someone to do that. And he's not a stupid guy. He's a very intelligent guy. So I can see where you're coming from, but I'd also argue against it.
Yeah, and I suppose to back up your point, AJ Styles was the guy in Impact for a long time. He didn't
Exactly.
debut anywhere else. So yeah,
He debuted at NXT, so it's that thing of, well, were they okay with AJ because he'd been away from Impact long enough? Did that make it okay? I don't know.
No, I see what you mean. Also on the note of EC3, we all know his TNA theme, Trouble was brilliant. But that top 1% entrance theme, I really enjoy that as well.
Yeah, I remember you liked that one.
Yeah, it's good.
But it was EC3 all over, wasn't it?
Yeah. But on that note as well, when his music hit, it took a second or two to twig who it was, because I completely forgot about EC3 being in NXT at all. It completely slipped my mind. I don't know why, but there we go. Just another example of things that sort of disappear into the depths of my mind, I guess, full of, quantum leap facts and NWA, mid-Atlantic wrestling knowledge. Britt Baker's in the crowd.
I made a note of that too, because I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, now we'd have watched this. We'd have watched this live, wouldn't we?
But no, well, we didn't watch it live, and I can talk about that in a bit. But
okay.
But we did say something at the time, and we was like, "Oh my god, that's his missus," because obviously we knew who she was then. So we did talk about it at the time.
Okay.
But she wasn't Britt Baker from AEW at the time.
No, that's true. Yeah. Also, something I know we spoke about at the time, how beautiful that title belt is.
It's stunning.
That's the one I want next, I think.
Yeah, okay. Wait till you turn 50.
Yeah, just a little bit of context. Sharon bought me a replica of the big gold belt, the old NWA WCW world title for my 40th, because it's my favourite championship belt, and I've wanted one for decades. So now I've got one. I kind of got the bug. I want a Winged Eagle. I want a European title. I want an IWGP championship. I want a North American title.
We should take it in turns, because it's our collection, because we're married. So if you buy me the Winged Eagle, then I'll buy you one in return.
What do you mean it's our collection because we're married? When did that happen?
Well, we're a couple. So what's yours is mine, and what's mine is my own.
I was going to say, bloody hell, does that mean I'm allowed to pick the music when we're in the car?
No, learn to drive.
All right. We'll debate the belt later. One thing that does irk me a little bit about this match is we've got the NXT crowd who make NXT shows a great deal of the time. The NXT crowd are fantastic with the crowd chanting and the involvement in entrance themes and certain things they do. I think they're like a real big extra for the NXT experience. Yeah. However, they're chanting "This is awesome" here before anyone even touches. That pisses me off. I don't know why. It just bothers me.
I think that's your issue.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because at the end of the day, I felt the same. I'm like, this is going to be amazing. And the one note I made, and I know I felt it at the time as well, watching them come in, watching the entrances. You know I've loved Adam Cole from the moment he stepped into a WWE ring. Unfortunately, I never listened to you way back when, and it did take for that to happen. But everything for me was geared up for Ricochet to win this match. In the entrances, everything.
Yeah, and there was a big deal about his debut and all that, wasn't there?
Yeah, and it just seemed very Ricochet biased. But it was awesome. Going into it, it was awesome. So I disagree with you.
Well, there's a surprise. Mentioning Ricochet there, I mean, obviously Adam Cole wins the contest here.
Spoiler.
Yeah, well, yeah. Adam Cole wins the contest here, and I think booking-wise that was the right decision. I don't need to ask if you think it was the right decision, because you would have Adam Cole with all the belts all the time,
But I remember, because I remember the night so vividly. And again, it's one of those funny memories that stick with you. And I know it always will, because we were sat downstairs when the pay-per-view started. And I'm like, can I put it on? And you was like, going, no, I don't want to know anything.
Because I was going to watch it the following day, wasn't I?
Yeah. And, which was fine. And it's like, okay. And I sort of said to you, can I go upstairs and watch it then? Because, I want to know what goes on with Cole. And you're just like, oh, whatever, go to bed then. Just like, don't tell me anything. And so we didn't watch it together. I already knew the result because I went up to bed and watched it on my Kindle. Trying to contain that excitement was insane because how I didn't make you aware who had won, considering what you know I'm like now, is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, again, for anyone listening, bit of context, Sharon does get very emotionally involved in certain wrestling aspects and so on. When Adam Cole debuted for AEW the other week, and when Edge returned at the Royal Rumble, I mean, my mum lives around 4 miles away. I think she heard Sharon's reaction at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I think Cole's was the biggest, though, to be fair.
Yeah, I reckon. The kids were jumping out of their skin. And
it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, wasn't it? And I'm like screaming. I'm amazed we didn't have the police turn up.
Yeah, neighbours complaining. Oh, dear.
but that's what I'm saying. It's quite shocking. I never made you aware he won. And I think I hid that beautifully until we watched it.
Yeah, you did, to be fair. That was really good. On the plus, I'd have been really cross if you'd let it slip. But at the same time, you were spot on. Me, I'd hide that. That's great. The thing is, with that, I mean, Cole, I think, was the right decision at the time. And this match I really enjoyed at the time. And watching it back, I really enjoyed. But to me, Ricochet is the star of the show. He's obviously, they've earmarked this guy for a big future at this time. I mean, ultimately, he went on to be in a tag team scene and now he's chasing the 24/7 title or some bollocks. But some of the stuff he was doing just blew my mind.
It was amazing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a moment where he's getting tipped out the ring and he turns it into a moonsault.
Off the ladder. That was incredible.
Yeah, there's another moment where he's he literally just gets thrown up in the air, but he kind of, the way he spins and lands and takes the bump is because the height he's getting is ridiculous. You've got Lars Sullivan and Killian Dane throwing him back and forth, and he's flipping his own body in midair and just unreal, just absolutely unreal, this guy. And it's the first time I'd really seen Ricochet, and he just blew my mind.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great match to debut in and have the multitude of people to work with and, see him in that situation, not just a one-on-one situation.
Yeah, exactly. Are there any...
I think he showed off his best in one match. Not saying he hasn't done better or not bad-mouthing him. He just literally put on a display for his first match.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. I think it's almost like he's put himself out there in a shop window and gone, here you go, this is what I can do. And people are behind him straight away because it was superb. Are there any other moments that sort of stick out to you about this match that you think, wow, that was excellent?
There's so much. If I went through all my notes, this podcast would be about 3 hours long because I have made an excessive amount of notes whilst watching it. And I know you said to me, you don't need to make notes. It's like, but there's so much that I don't want to forget anything.
Right.
And there's just literally so much stuff. It was just such a fantastic match from start to finish. And, I'm not 100% sure where we stand on even mentioning his name at the moment, but Velveteen Dream was incredible. And he took some bumps.
That top rope elbow from the top rope elbows he was doing, and then that elbow drop from the top of the ladder as well. Yeah. I mean, big Randy Savage fan. Shawn Michaels is my guy. I love a top rope elbow drop. Velveteen Dream was superb at that. I think it's a real shame because I think we're being deprived of someone who is obviously talented and entertaining to watch because of his own stupid decisions and his own moronic behaviour. Yeah. What a piece of crap. There we go. I got a chuckle from EC3 doing the whole EC3 baby bit. That was good.
Yeah, that was quite funny, but no, don't ever do that again.
Super kicks flying around everywhere, and then you get the proper version, and my goodness, didn't the crowd love Adam Cole?
Yes.
The finish is also very interesting as well. I mean, you get all 6 people on the ladders very high up. A combination of ladders. I think there's like 3 ladders there with 6 people on it, or maybe 4 ladders there potentially. People start falling one by one. Lars Sullivan ends up climbing up. And at one stage, it did really look like this was going to be a match he was going to win, and because they were pushing this guy to the moon, weren't they?
Yeah.
Ricochet jumps on his back, and they all fall down, as the saying goes. Cole tips Ricochet out the way and climbs up, grabs the belt, and wins. And we get the big, huge pop from the crowd because, despite the fact that Adam Cole is at this stage very much supposed to be a bad guy, people can't boo him because he's freaking brilliant.
Because he's Adam Cole.
Baby.
I was going to say that, but I stopped myself. And I still watching that again. And again, I really must reiterate, I don't rewatch matches. That's probably the 4th time I've watched that match. I still get goosebumps.
Is there any negatives to it as we sort of move on to the last one that we have here on this list? Are there any negatives to this ladder match you can think of?
There's nothing that stands out to me. I suppose the only negative is it was so good. It's almost like, wow, where the hell do you go from that?
Yeah, okay, I get that. Again, you're using old Shagger Dave Meltzer as a point of reference. He gave this 5 stars, so I guess he kind of agrees with you, Sha. It was top notch. I mean, one criticism I do have is there were time. I suppose it happens with these kind of matches. You can't really avoid it, but you have the 2 issues of 1. 4 guys laying outside the ring, selling for ages, whilst 2 guys are getting their stuff in the match. And then it's almost like they take it in turns. That bothers me a little bit, but I understand for television it has to be done.
That's the nature of the beast, though, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And the next one, again, it's very much the nature of the beast, I suppose. It does sometimes just turn into a spot fest. It does sometimes just turn into, okay, we've done that stunt. Now we need to position things ready for the next stunt. But at the same time, most ladder matches, especially multi-person ladder matches, are done this way. And this one's done very, very, very well.
Yeah, and again, that to me is a part of the show, and it's part and parcel of being multi-man and a ladder match. It is, everyone's got to have their moment. And the talent that they had in that ring, everyone had multiple moments. And the smaller guys, I use the term loosely, but the smaller guys almost made up for the bigger guys because the bigger guys can't do the flips and tricks.
Yeah, okay. Well, I suppose the bigger guys can do the power moves. Like, for example, I think Dane at one stage had someone on his shoulders and then somebody else in almost like a body slam position as well.
I think he had 3 of them at one stage.
Yeah, that's a really big spot, a big visual, I guess, that you're not going to get if they are all smaller guys, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay. That brings us to the final selection you made, Sha, for us to go back and watch out of your 3 of the 4. Do you want to just run through the details of this match, why, and ultimately, I suppose, why you chose it?
So for my 3rd and final, I picked Adam Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks at Revolution 2020 for the tag team titles.
Okay. Why does this match? I mean, you don't need to tell me. I already know. But why?
The reason I've picked this match is growing up and watching the wrestling I watched. Let me tell you a little story. Growing up and watching
story time with Sharon Powell, baby.
Tag teams were a big deal for me because I grew up watching the Rockers, watching the Hart Foundation. As they're the 2 standout ones. I'm not going to carry on going on and on about it, but this felt to me like this match made tag team wrestling relevant.
Okay.
It wasn't watching WWE for as long as we have. Tag team wrestling, I feel, has been very much, oh God, I suppose we better put one of them matches on, hadn't we?
Yeah.
Watching AEW as a whole, but watching this match especially, and I like all the guys as well. We've watched them for a long time, way back when before AEW, but it just was breathtaking. It was stunning.
Yeah, when you when you gave me the three matches you had selected, I'll be honest, I probably could have picked two of them. The third one, I had no idea what you were going to go with, but this was one of the two that I was fairly adamant you were going to choose.
Because again, rewatching it for this, that's the third time I've seen that match.
Yeah, and I know we've said it
the week it happened.
Yeah, I know we've said it several times on the show, but going back and watching old wrestling is something you really do not do. It just does not happen. You're very much, you have memories of things. You watch the odd match that for chain wrestling when I put it on, and you'll just happen to be in the room and so on. But you're very much a case of watching what's being put out now, because there is so much content available now. It's difficult, I suppose, to keep up sometimes. I absolutely adored this. Watching this back, this is the first time I've seen this since we watched it live, and I always knew it was good, of course. Again, another 5-star match from old Uncle Dave, and we always talk about it being a great memory, a great match that we watched together and so on. But it wasn't until watching it back today that I remember just how bloody good it actually is. I mean,
so good.
The Young Bucks are fantastic. I think Nick Jackson has got the potential, if it ever happened for them, and they did split, whether amicably or not, and you had people in the singles ranks, I think Nick Jackson's got the potential to be up there with the likes of a Daniel Bryan or a Kenny Omega as being considered one of the best wrestlers in the world. I just think sometimes in a tag match or tag division, you sometimes lose a little bit of that. You need to be a singles to be really sort of thought of that way, potentially. Yeah. Page is excellent, of course. And to me, Omega, especially at this stage, he was top dog. He was the guy. I mean, what a cast of characters.
It was just like, I sound like I haven't got a clue what I'm on about, but it was just breathtaking. Everything, not even just the match itself was outstanding. I don't think you can get any better, especially when talking tag team matches. But everything about it, the build-up was phenomenal. The storytelling around the match, it was just incredible.
Yeah, I forgot about some of this. Obviously, the whole Page storyline with Omega, it looks like it's going to be sort of reignited very soon, with Page potentially returning and a title match down the line and so on. But here, as long ago as this was, I mean, I'm not talking this wasn't decades ago, of course, but in the big scheme of things, it seems like this was a long time ago because of what's gone on in the world since. It gives you a recap of what happened with the Elite and Hangman and Omega and the Bucks and everyone else up to this point. And it kind of, I was sat there watching the recap footage on the video going, oh yeah, oh my God, yeah, oh yeah. And you realise how long a storyline Page, Omega, the Elite and all that around AEW and the world title and around how they treated Page, how long term this has been.
Yeah, called him a Ring of Honor jobber, yeah.
Yeah. There's so much in this match. I mean, this match goes, I think, 40 minutes or something silly like that. There's so much in this match. We can't possibly cover it all. But what particular moments stand out, if any? Or was it all just so good it blurs into one big awesomeness?
And again, this is the emotional side of wrestling. When you are emotionally invested in the people you're watching, it was literally the emotions that did it. The reluctance when Omega stops Hangman putting Matt Jackson through a table. Now, in any other circumstance, he wouldn't have done that. But this is like, no, he's our friend. You can't do that. And it was amazing, and to watch the progression of that through the match was incredible.
Yeah, it gets me as well when you get these certain individuals online, some of them very prominent in the wrestling world, with a history for working for different companies and so on, who say the likes of the Bucks and Omega, they don't understand ring psychology. They can't tell a story. I call absolute bullshit, because if you think that, then you've not been paying attention. Just how long did Matt Jackson have a bad back for?
That went on for ages.
You know, and obviously it's very simplistic because it's a case of, he's got a bad back, or work the back. But it's all, harks back to previous contests and previous moments. And I mean, that just shows, I suppose, as one very obvious example, I guess, how behind Page, are the crowd as well.
I've got written down at least twice that I can see quickly, the cowboy shit chance.
Yeah, yeah. You got
as soon as he comes to the ring, they've got the cowboy shit chance going.
Yeah. And
it's incredible. I love Hangman Page anyway, and the one thing I've always said to you from the moment, obviously physically, he's all right, I suppose. But I said to you the first match I watched of his, I was like, who is that? Like, I was mesmerised by his wrestling style. And I still love it now. It hasn't changed, but I still love it. I love watching him wrestle. So for me personally, when we've had conversations about all these people, to see Paige be as over as he is, I love it.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's something really likeable about the guy, isn't there?
It's his beautiful blue eyes.
Yeah, that's exactly what does it for me too. I remember that we first sort of came across him on a New Japan show, and it might have been a G1 event that we were watching with Charlie.
Yeah, I think it was.
And we both sat down watching the rerun of this G1 event, and completely out of nowhere, he does the Hangman Page I'm referring to here, does a shooting star press, but from a standing position. And you and me both at exactly the same time just went, whoa. Because it literally came out of nowhere. Just this, all of a sudden, this bloke, he's not a small fella. I mean, he's no Hulk Hogan or Triple H or anything like that. Of course not. But he's not a small guy. And he just busts like
he's always had a bit of like puppy fat, hasn't he? So you don't expect to see moves like that.
Yeah, I mean, that really, I just looked at that and thought, that's incredible. Another moment that really amazed me, I thought was brilliant, was when Kenny Omega pushed Matt Jackson towards Hangman Page, and he sort of half waist locked him and threw him over his head into a big suplex. But the timing of it was all so smooth. I mean, these guys just, I can't go through spot by spot by spot because there was so much in this. Anyone listening, go and check out this match again. If you've never seen it or you've not seen it in a long time, go and watch it again, because I was mesmerised second time round watching this match. Absolutely breathtaking stuff. I suppose then that kind of effectively brings us towards the end of our summary here, and we should really probably have a look at the finish of this match, where Hangman actually hits a one-winged angel at one stage, doesn't he? Which I thought was a lovely little touch there, using Kenny Omega.
Beautiful, may I add? Like, I thought he does it incredibly, and for me, I suppose I've literally never seen anyone else do it, because it's a Kenny Omega move. So I've never seen anyone else do it. So to see Paige do it was incredible. Yeah.
And he gets the 2 count because, again, nobody kicks out of it. The count is broken up. Hangman hits his buckshot lariat to the outside onto the entrance ramp on one of the Young Bucks, and then from the outside back into the ring on the other of the Young Bucks to, get the pinfall and retain their titles. I thought it was just absolute gold, just absolute brilliance from the first belt until the last.
Going back to what you said, like it's a 40-minute match. Now, it doesn't feel like a 40-minute match when you watch it.
No, you're right. I mean, I think the first half of the match, it almost feels slow from what I remember. I'm not saying it's a slow, sluggish match or anything like that, but the first half doesn't quite feel... It doesn't feel what I can remember the match being. But then you get to sort of 20, 25, 30 minutes in, and they just amp it up and all the way to the finish. It's absolute, just brilliance. And I love tag team wrestling anyway. Arn and Tully, the Midnights, the Rock and Roll Express, and so on. Seeing tag team wrestling done in the modern era, done brilliantly, I really enjoy, because I think it's been missing for so long, with WWE being the only show around, and they not putting the effort in, I guess, potentially.
They've not invested in their tag team.
No, you're right. I mean, one of the most laughable titles at the moment, I think, is the WWE women's tag titles. As nice as the belts may look, I can't name you a women's tag team in WWE. I think they broke them all up. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. Right then, here we go. And this is, I think, where you and me may disagree a touch. We rank the matches. Our top 4, from 4 down to 1. Out of these 4 contests, the 3 that you chose, not seen in years, you say yourself, and then the one that I put forward as a new match for you to see. We'll go in reverse order. What comes in for you at number 4?
I'd have to say at number 4, it's The Rock versus Triple H.
Why? You surprise me.
Well,
yeah, I'm on
because
board
you
with
was
that.
expecting me to put your match forth.
I was 100%. I thought purely because of The Rock. I know how much of a big fan of The Rock you were, and you chose the Rock Triple H match because it reminds you of getting back into wrestling and so on. I thought the nostalgia side might carry it potentially.
But I'm taking nostalgia out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're asking, you're not asking me to pick my favourite wrestlers. That's obviously another show altogether. But in the respect of what we've watched, I can't see it beating any of the others.
No, I'm completely on board with that. I'm completely on board. My fourth choice is exactly the same. Rock versus Triple H, SummerSlam 98. I think this may be one of the last positions we agree on. Number 3. Where do you go, Sha? What's your third?
Well, I'm gonna have to say Steamboat Macho Man for 3.
I thought you would. Yeah. Okay. Well, so when it weren't 4th, I thought it was going to be 3. Yeah. Okay. Reason being that what you explained before, it just looks dated and so.
Yeah, just exactly that. I mean, it was better than watching The Rock Triple H again in respect of content of the match, but it's nowhere near the next 2 for me personally.
Okay. And again, and that's the beauty of it. It's all personal opinions. There's no right or wrong. I mean, don't get me wrong, you are wrong, but there's no right. No, there's no
heard of the saying "happy wife, happy life"?
Well, yeah, okay. This is what I'm really looking forward to. I've been looking forward to doing this show with you, and I'm looking forward to doing this format with other people as well, because the difference in opinions and stuff. I mean, I'm very much a WCW fan. I know I'm going to rank certain WCW matches above other matches because of my preference for that company. So it's just interesting hearing people's thoughts. My number 3 is actually the North American ladder match.
Oh my God.
Purely because it's amazing. And honestly, the top 3, Rock and Triple H at 4, I think is a step below all the others. That's why it's in 4th place. The next 3, you can ask me again tomorrow, it'll be a different order. You can ask me again.
I'm not going to ask you tomorrow because I'm not going to be speaking to you tomorrow.
I think they are all so good. And me putting this match at number 3 doesn't mean in any way, shape or form I don't think it's very good. I think it's amazing and rightfully a 5-star match and so on, of course. But at this moment in time, having watched the matches back in the last sort of 24 hours, 48 hours, this is third for me purely because of the fact that we've seen so many multi-man ladder matches now, and so many of the matches follow a similar format, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And what we'll do now is...
It's that thing, I'm going to contradict myself because, as I just said for number 4, I'm not letting emotions dictate that. I am going to contradict myself with the next 2.
Yeah, I can understand that. Okay. What we'll do, actually, because I'm so intrigued by which order you put.
I think you know which order I'm going to put them in.
I genuinely don't. Well, quickly give my last 2, and then we'll get to your 2, because I think that's more intriguing than mine. Second place, I've got the WrestleMania 3 contest between Steamboat and Savage, purely because it's a wrestling match. It says wrestling on the poster, it says wrestling on the marquee, and that's what I love, a wrestling match. And these are 2 guys putting on a fantastic wrestling contest. And then number 1 for me, out of the 4 that we've looked at, is the Bucks versus Page and Omega. One of the best tag matches I've ever seen. And that's all I want to say, because this show is not about my choices, it's about you. So this is going to fascinate me now. Your 1 and 2, in any order you fancy, your 1 and 2, divide, because I know these 2 are big matches for you, and I don't know which way you're going to go.
Okay. Well, when I start talking, you'll know. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
My number 1 is going to win out because of emotion. So for me, the number 1 match is the NXT North American title match.
Really?
Yes, because emotionally, don't get me wrong, I take nothing away from the tag team title. There's literally like 0.0001 between the two.
That's how I feel, yeah.
It's so close, but you know how I felt with Adam Cole and the fact that I didn't think he'd win that match because everything was pointing away from him.
Yeah.
So the emotion I personally felt when he won with the tag team match, absolutely amazing display, and it got to the stage where you didn't care who won, sorry.
Yeah.
Because of how incredible it was. With the North American one, I genuinely didn't think Cole would win. Genuinely did not. So to see him win was just incredible for me.
Yeah, okay. No, I fully understand that. I'm surprised. Well, it's so daft. I'm going to contradict myself completely in the space of 2 sentences here. I thought you were going to go, if I had to pick which one was going to be your number one, just from watching these matches with you in the past, talking about it and so on, I thought you would go with Bucks versus Page Omega because I know how much you adored that match.
And however, I love all 4 of them as well.
Yeah, of course. However, if you hadn't picked the North American title match, I would have been surprised. But then you've picked the North American title match. I'm surprised it's not Bucks, Page and Omega. So you're going to shock me either way because I know these 2 matches are, I mean, I in theory, I'm assuming because I've made you pick a top 4. If you could have your way, you'd have them both at number 1. But
well, yeah, I pretty much would because they both hit for different reasons.
Yeah.
And unlike you, my number 1 will never change for the simple fact that it's Cole, and it's always about Cole for me. So it won't change, but the closeness of the 2 it's literally, you couldn't even fit a Rizzler paper between the 2.
No, that's fair enough. Okay, I have had a brilliant time talking wrestling with you, my love. Absolutely fantastic.
It's not like it's something we do every day or anything.
No. Just we're in different rooms at the moment because that's the way I'm recording. And do it, episode 50 of SJP as well. The fact that I'm still doing podcasts and that Chain Wrestling has come around with Mags and that SJP has 50 episodes and I have people, I go to a wrestling event after lockdown opened up again and the wrestlers are coming over to me during their entrance to say hello because they recognize me from talking to me on the show and all this sort of stuff. All of that is down to you. All of that is down to you pushing me into this. All of this is down to you. I wouldn't have done episode 1 if it wasn't for you sort of motivating me, pushing me into this after I'd done some writing and so on, and telling me that I can talk for Britain. Why don't I do a podcast so you haven't got to listen to it and all this sort of stuff. So again, whatever it is, 40 odd episodes of Chain Wrestling, 13, 14 of them live. Some brilliant friends I've met, the likes of Magsy, Scottish Danny, UTT Rob, Andy from Bang Bang, Dan as well from UTT podcast, Dan Griffin, and all these guys, Steve-O, everyone, Ori, the old lot, Tanner, Radio Tekkers, all these friends I've met now that I read you count as friends. It all comes back to you kicking me in the arse and saying, pull your finger out and get yourself a podcast, what you're doing. So on that note, 50 episodes in, I want to say thank you so much for motivating me and supporting me through all of this. I wouldn't be doing it without you, and I have a great time doing it. So I love you and thank you.
You are welcome. And just to say this, there's a reason I pushed you for this, and you know this, and it got to the stage where I'm practically shouting at you, being like, for God's sakes, just do it. What have you got to lose? And I still stand by that now. With everything you've done, it's like, just do it. I think sometimes you've needed a kick up the backside, but I was happy to do that to get you where you are now and beyond.
No, it means a great deal. I really, really appreciate it. As you know, I tell you virtually every day. So before we end the recording and I come and sit next to you again on the sofa. I want you to let everybody know about the fantastic debut book you have penned yourself, where people can find it. I mean, majority of people who listen to Chain Wrestling are aware already, but there's people who listen to this show who may not listen to that one. Tell us about the book. Tell us about where people can find it. Give us a bit of information. The floor is yours.
Oh, Lord. So my debut book is called Sweet Melody. It is only available on Amazon, and you can get it on Kindle Unlimited if you are subscribed. At the moment, it's on offer for 99p if you haven't got Kindle Unlimited, so now's the time to grab it before it goes up to $2.99. You haven't put me on the spot, but you have put me on the spot because we've been talking so much wrestling that I've suddenly gone, what? I wrote a book?
Yes, it's got me on the cover, hasn't it? No, it blatantly hasn't. The bloke on the cover is in far better physical shape than I. My hair is better than his, though, isn't it?
Yes, my love, your hair is so much better than his.
I'm glad. I know that's like ridiculously patronising, and you're not telling the truth, but I'm going to take that. I'm okay with that.
Is this all getting edited out because I lie?
No, this will stay in. I'm just going to cut the bit out where you say you lie. That's the bit that's getting cut. Just let people know out there what sort of the genre of book it is, if people want to, if that's the sort of genre they're into, and so on.
It is rockstar romance with a twist because it's not airy-fairy. There are a few twists and turns along the way. So if you don't like romance, don't read it. It's really a waste of your time. But if you do, go get it.
Yes, definitely do. It's a bit saucy in places as well. Great stuff.
And both of our mothers have read it.
I don't even want to think about my mum reading saucy stuff that you've written. That makes me feel weird.
Can I just do a bit of a sidebar? I had a review on Goodreads and she didn't star it, but what she said actually had me in stitches because, spoiler alert, and apologies for anyone younger listening, I suppose. Maybe they won't know what I'm on about if they're too young, or you could just edit this out. The review was, I'm barely 2 chapters in and she's squirting in his face. How ridiculous. So that gives you a basis of what you're in for.
Yeah, I suppose it does. Sharon, can you tell all the wonderful people out there on the internet land where they can find you online, where they can find links to, your social medias, your book pages, and so on?
So I am everywhere online. Everything comes under Sharon Correia. It's spelled weird, and I apologise for that, but that's my name. And you'll be able to see it in any links attached to this. So you can find me on all of the normal socials, except Twitter is at Sharon Correia 13, because Sharon Correia was gone.
How do you spell Correia quickly, Shah, just for the listeners?
It's spelled Correia.
Okay, there we go. You can find me on Twitter at SJP Words. You can find the show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at SJP Wrestling Pod. And also, I suggest you not only follow Sharon there at Sharon Correia all over the place and at Sharon Correia 13 on Twitter, but also go and give Radio Tekkers a follow. On YouTube, make sure you are subscribed. You've got a little notification bell ticked and so on. Everyone on Radio Tekkers is doing fantastic stuff. Football, UFC, MMA, pro wrestling. There's so much there. There's going to be gaming talk, all sorts. There's so much content coming at you. I mean, literally in the last 2 hours before sitting down to record this podcast, more people were added to the Tekkers crew who are going to bring in even more quality content for you to check out via podcasts, via live videos, via YouTube streaming, whatever, Twitch, whatever. Go check out Radio Tekkers at Radio Tekkers on Twitter. Again, at SJP Words for myself. You can find me, all my shows and so on there. Sharon, thank you so much for tolerating me talking wrestling every day since we met. Thank you so much for tolerating and talking wrestling with me as we record this today, and running through this new format, which I think has been a good fun.
You're welcome for coming up with that idea, by the way.
Yes, I will be plugging it as your idea each time we do one. Okay, and to everyone else, as always, thank you for listening. Skype's a fucking ball bag.
You're a ball bag.
You're a ball bag. Fucking knobhead. Oh, this is blatantly getting cut and put on the outtakes at the end.
You can't do that. We didn't watch it together. I already knew the result because I went up to bed and watched it on my Kindle, and trying to contain that excitement was... Oh, shit.
For match 3, I suppose. Shall we have a look at the selection I chose, Sha?
Match 3, do you mean 2?
Match 2. Oh, yeah. Yeah, look at you catching me. That's gone on the outtakes reel at the end of the show as well.
Hang on, let me get a chest. Sorry, are you going to edit that now, I'm guessing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, I've had to move about 100 times because your dickhead of a cat has been making a racket.
Another moment I really enjoyed was when Kevin Owens pushed Matt Jackson towards Hangman Page, and he
Kevin Owens?
Sorry, Kevin Owens. Bloody hell, what's wrong with me? Kenny Omega.
Sorry, you've got KO.
I've written down KO in shorthand. Yeah. You got Kevin. Oh, they did it again. Bloody Kevin Owens.